There are some moments when a child's simple words cut through all the noise and complexity of adult life to reveal a truth so pure it makes everyone remember what actually matters. What happened when 10-year-old Emma Rodriguez stood at the Family Feud podium during Fast Money, her mother beside her after they'd already won the game, preparing to answer 5 rapid-fire questions that would determine if they'd win 2020's Zalozin? Was the convergence of 3 years of hell, a promise made in a hospital room, and an answer so perfect, so heartbreakingly honest, that when Emma gave it, the studio would erupt not in celebration but in tears. She stood there barely tall enough to see over the podium, wearing a bright pink dress and a baseball cap to cover the hair that was only just starting to grow back after her 3rd round of chemotherapy. And when Steve Harvey asked the final Fast Money question, "Name something you'd wish for if you could wish for anything in the world," Emma's answer would stop the show completely, would make Steve Harvey break down sobbing, would remind everyone watching that childhood shouldn't include words like terminal, and remission, and survival rate. If you've ever watched a child suffer through something no child should endure, if you've ever seen resilience in someone too young to even understand how brave they're being, if you've ever heard wisdom from a 10-year-old that changed how you see the world, you need to hear what Emma said. Before we begin, if you believe that children can teach us more about courage than any adult ever could, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, because we share stories about people who face the impossible with grace we can barely comprehend. Emma Rodriguez was born in 2014 in San Antonio, Texas, to Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, their first and only child, a happy, energetic baby who became a happy, energetic toddler who loved Frozen and dinosaurs and had strong opinions about everything. By age 6, Emma was in 1st grade, thriving, making friends easily, excelling at reading, playing soccer, living the kind of ordinary magical childhood that every parent hopes for their kid. Then in August 2021, just after Emma turned 7, Maria noticed that Emma was getting tired more easily than usual, was bruising from minor bumps, was having nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. Maria took Emma to the pediatrician thinking maybe anemia, maybe a vitamin deficiency, something simple and fixable. The blood tests showed something that wasn't simple. Emma's white blood cell count was dangerously high, her platelets were low, and the pediatrician's face, when she came back into the exam room, told Maria everything before words did. They were sent immediately to the Children's Hospital, where more tests confirmed acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL, the most common childhood cancer, but still devastating, still terrifying, still a diagnosis that changed everything. Emma was 7 years old, starting 2nd grade, and instead she started chemotherapy, radiation, spending weeks at a time in the hospital, learning medical terms no child should know, becoming familiar with ports and IVs and bone marrow aspirations, and all the horror of treating cancer by poisoning your whole body and hoping the cancer dies before the patient does. The first round of treatment was brutal, Emma losing her hair within 2 weeks, getting so sick from the chemo that she couldn't eat, losing weight until she looked skeletal, her big brown eyes enormous in her thin face. But she responded well, the cancer going into remission by December 2021, and the oncologist said the prognosis was good. ALL in children had a cure rate over 90%. Emma would probably beat this. The family celebrated Christmas 2021 with cautious hope, Emma wearing fun wigs, still weak but cancer-free according to the tests, talking about going back to school, about playing soccer again, about all the normal kid things she'd been denied. Then in March 2022, 5 months after achieving remission, Emma relapsed. The cancer came back, and this time the prognosis was worse, relapsed ALL being much harder to treat, survival rates dropping significantly. Emma went through a second, more aggressive round of chemotherapy, this time including a stem cell transplant, which meant weeks in isolation, Emma's immune system destroyed and then rebuilt, infections and complications and pain that had Maria and Carlos taking turns sleeping in a chair in Emma's hospital room because she was too sick to be alone. Emma was 8 years old and spending her 3rd birthday in the hospital, and when Maria tried to sing "Happy Birthday," Emma was too exhausted to even blow out the candles on the cupcake the nurses had brought. But again, impossibly, Emma's body fought back, the cancer going into remission a second time by July 2022. The doctors were more cautious this time, said Emma would need maintenance therapy for years, would need constant monitoring, that relapse was still possible. But for now Emma was cancer-free. She started third grade in September 2022, wearing hats to cover her bald head, still weak and tired but determined to be normal, to be a kid again, to do homework and have friends and not be the sick kid. For 8 months, Emma was okay, not perfect but functional, living a life that included hospital visits and blood tests, but also soccer practice and birthday parties and ordinary childhood moments. Then in April 2023, the cancer came back a second time. Emma was 9 years old, and this was her third diagnosis, and the oncologist's face, when delivering the news, told Maria and Carlos what the statistics said: third relapse ALL in children had survival rates under 30%, and even if Emma survived the treatment, she'd likely face long-term complications, organ damage, developmental delays, a shortened life expectancy. They could try another round of treatment, more aggressive, more experimental, but it might not work, and it would definitely cause suffering. Or they could pursue palliative care, focus on quality of life, for whatever time Emma had left. Maria and Carlos chose to fight, couldn't imagine not fighting, and Emma, 9 years old and already a veteran of cancer treatment, said she wanted to fight too. "I'm not ready to die yet," Emma told them in her matter-of-fact 9-year-old way. "I still have things I want to do." So they did a third round of treatment, the most aggressive yet, clinical trial medications that had horrible side effects, and Emma endured it with a resilience that broke her parents' hearts, because no child should have to be that resilient, that brave, that accepting of suffering. By December 2023, after 9 months of brutal treatment, Emma's latest scans showed no evidence of disease. Third remission, but everyone knew the statistics, knew that staying cancer-free after 2 relapses was unlikely, that Emma would need monitoring forever, that any cold or infection could be the sign of cancer returning. Emma turned 10 in February 2024, and for her birthday she made a wish list that was heartbreaking in its mixture of normal kid wants and cancer survivor wisdom. She wanted a trip to Disney World, a puppy, to see her favorite soccer team play, to be on Family Feud because she and her mom watched it together during hospital stays, and it was their show, and to stay healthy long enough to grow up. That last item destroyed Maria, the casualness with which her 10-year-old wrote, "Stay healthy long enough to grow up," like it was equivalent to getting a puppy or going to Disney World. But they started working on the list, determined to give Emma as many wishes as possible while she was healthy enough to enjoy them. The trip to Disney World happened in March 2024, Emma wearing hats and sunscreen and being careful about crowds because her immune system was still compromised. But she got to meet her favorite princesses and ride the rides and be a normal kid for 4 days. They got the puppy in April, a golden retriever puppy Emma named Sunshine because she makes everything brighter even when I feel dark. In May, they went to a soccer game, Emma meeting some of the players afterward who signed her jersey and took photos. And in June 2024, Maria applied to Family Feud, explaining in the application that her 10-year-old daughter Emma was a 3-time cancer survivor who loved the show and had it on her bucket list. The producers were moved by Emma's story and selected the Rodriguez family to tape in August 2024. The family would be Maria, Emma, Maria's sister Rosa, Rosa's husband, and their teenage son. Emma's dad Carlos couldn't take off work, but he'd watched the episode when it aired. Emma was thrilled, talked about nothing else for weeks, practiced answering Family Feud questions, made her mom quiz her on possible categories. She was still in remission, her hair growing back in fuzzy patches that she covered with colorful hats, her energy better than it had been in years, her most recent scans clear. The oncologist cautiously said Emma could make the trip to Los Angeles, should be careful but could do it, that she'd earned this moment of joy. On August 16, 2024, Emma and her family flew to Los Angeles. Emma wore her favorite pink dress and a baseball cap with a rainbow on it, and she was vibrating with excitement, talking nonstop about meeting Steve Harvey, about playing the game, about how this was going to be the best day of her life. At the studio, the producers were incredibly kind, making sure Emma was comfortable, bringing her snacks, explaining how the game would work in terms a 10-year-old could understand. They didn't treat her like she was fragile or sick, treated her like any other kid contestant, which Emma appreciated because she was so tired of being treated like she was about to break. When it was time to tape, Emma walked onto the stage holding her mother's hand, and when Steve Harvey came out and saw this tiny 10-year-old in her baseball cap standing with her family, his face immediately showed warmth and curiosity. He worked his way down the line doing introductions, and when he got to Emma, he knelt down to be at her eye level. "Hey there! What's your name, sweetheart?" Emma's voice was clear and confident. "I'm Emma Rodriguez. I'm 10 years old and I'm really excited to be here." Steve smiled. "Well, Emma Rodriguez, we're excited to have you. That's a cool hat you got there." Emma touched her hat self-consciously. "Thanks. I'm wearing it because my hair is still growing back. I had cancer." The words were delivered so matter-of-factly, with such casual honesty, that Steve's smile faltered and his eyes widened. "You had cancer when?" Emma nodded. "3 times. I had leukemia, and it kept coming back, so I've done chemo 3 times. But right now I'm in remission, which means the cancer is gone, at least for now. So I'm here doing things on my bucket list while I'm healthy." Steve Harvey stood up slowly, his face showing he was processing something heavy, something he hadn't expected. "Emma, baby, you're 10 years old and you're talking about bucket lists and remission. That's not normal kid stuff." Emma shrugged, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of someone much older. "I know, but I'm not a normal kid. I'm a cancer kid, and cancer kids have to grow up faster because we know that time isn't guaranteed. So we make lists of things we want to do, and we try to do them while we can." The studio had gone very quiet, everyone absorbing the reality that this tiny, cheerful 10-year-old had been fighting for her life since she was 7, that she'd had to learn about mortality and treatment plans and survival rates when she should have been learning multiplication and reading chapter books. Steve's voice was thick with emotion. "And being on Family Feud is on your bucket list." Emma's face lit up. "Yes! My mom and I watched this show together, especially when I was in the hospital. It made us laugh when things were really bad. So this is really important to me, being here, playing the game with my family. This is one of my wishes." Steve Harvey had to turn away briefly, composing himself, and when he turned back, he spoke directly to Emma with a seriousness that acknowledged her as someone who'd earned adult respect through suffering. "Emma, we're going to play this game, and we're going to make sure this day is everything you hoped for. Thank you for being here. Thank you for fighting so hard to be here. You're incredibly brave." Emma smiled. "Thank you. Can we play now? I really want to win." Steve laughed through his tears. "Yes, baby, let's play." The game proceeded, and Emma was delightful, energetic, answering questions with enthusiasm, high-fiving her mom when they got answers on the board, groaning dramatically when they got strikes, being a completely normal 10-year-old except for the occasional moment when she'd mention something casually devastating like, "I learned that word in the hospital," or, "That's one of the medications I take." The Rodriguez family won their game, beating the other family, and that meant they'd get to play Fast Money, the final round where 2 family members answer 5 questions trying to accumulate 200 points to win $20,000. Maria and Emma would play Fast Money together, Emma going first and Maria going second to cover anything Emma missed. The setup was perfect: a mother and daughter who'd spent 3 years fighting cancer together, now playing a game show together, trying to win money that Maria had privately decided would go toward Emma's future medical costs because even in remission, childhood cancer survivors faced ongoing expenses. Steve brought Emma to the podium for Fast Money, explained the rules, that she'd answer 5 questions as fast as possible, that there were no wrong answers, just first instinct responses. Emma nodded, focused, ready. Steve started the clock. "Name a place people go to relax." Emma: "Beach." "Name something you eat with your hands." Emma: "Pizza." "Name an animal that's really fast." Emma: "Cheetah." "Name something kids wish they could do that adults can do." Emma: "Drive." Then Steve asked the 5th and final question. And this was the one that would change everything. "Name something you'd wish for if you could wish for anything in the world." It was a standard Family Feud question, meant to elicit answers like money, or happiness, or world peace. But Emma, 10-year-old Emma who'd been fighting cancer for 3 years, who had a bucket list at age 10, who knew what it meant to wish for things most kids took for granted, didn't hesitate. Her answer came immediately, clear and certain: more time. The studio went completely silent. Steve Harvey froze, his hand holding the card stopped mid-motion, his face showing he'd been hit with something he wasn't prepared for. Emma looked up at him, waiting for him to move on to the next part, not understanding why everyone had stopped, not realizing what she'd said was anything unusual. But Steve couldn't move, couldn't speak, because a 10-year-old cancer survivor had just said that if she could wish for anything in the world, she'd wish for more time, not toys or money or adventure, just time. The one thing cancer had taught her was precious and finite and not guaranteed. Steve's eyes filled with tears immediately, and he put his hand over his mouth, turning away from Emma, trying not to break down in front of her. The audience was openly crying, Maria was sobbing, and Emma looked confused, asking, "Did I say something wrong? Is that not a good answer?" Steve turned back to Emma, got down on his knees so they were eye to eye, and his voice was shaking when he spoke. "Emma, baby, that's not a wrong answer. That's the most right answer I've ever heard. That's the most honest, beautiful answer anyone has ever given on this show." Emma's face showed relief. "Oh good, I was worried I messed up, but it's true, that's what I'd wish for, more time, because I almost ran out of time, and I know I might run out again, and if I could wish for anything, I'd wish for more time to do all the things I want to do, to grow up, to have a normal life." She said it so simply, so honestly, with the wisdom of someone who'd learned at 7 years old that life isn't infinite, that time is the most valuable thing we have, and that some of us get more of it than others for no fair reason. Steve Harvey couldn't speak, could only nod, tears running down his face. He stood up and looked at the producers, signaling that they needed to stop, that he couldn't continue, that this moment was too big to just move past. He walked to the side of the stage, his back to the cameras, and stood there crying for a full minute while everyone in the studio did the same. The crew was crying, the other family was crying, strangers were crying for this tiny girl who'd survived what shouldn't be survivable and whose greatest wish was simply for more time. Finally, Steve composed himself enough to come back. He looked at Emma and said, "We need to see if your answers are on the board. Let's see how you did." They revealed Emma's answers one by one. Beach, for where people go to relax, 32 points. Pizza, for something you eat with your hands, 41 points. Cheetah, for an animal that's really fast, 8 points. Not a great answer, but Steve didn't care. Drive, for something kids wish they could do that adults can do, 28 points. Emma had 109 points so far. Then they got to the fifth answer, and Steve's voice was barely audible as he read the question back. Something you'd wish for if you could wish for anything in the world. Emma had said, more time. On the board, the number one answer, given by 44 people out of 100 surveyed, more time, longer life, 44 points. Emma's answer was not only on the board, it was the top answer, the most common response, the thing that more people wished for than anything else when you stripped away the pretense and asked what people really wanted. Emma had 153 points total, and when Maria came out to answer the same questions again, she only needed 47 points to win the 20,000. But before Maria started, Steve stopped everything. He called Emma back out to the podium, and with Maria standing there too, he addressed the audience and the cameras. "I need to say something about what just happened. Emma Rodriguez is 10 years old, and she's survived cancer 3 times. 3 times. And when I asked her what she'd wish for if she could wish for anything in the world, she didn't say toys or fame or money. She said more time. Because this baby has learned something that most adults never fully understand. Time is the only thing that matters. Not the things we buy, not the status we achieve, not any of the stuff we spend our lives chasing. Time. Time to be with the people we love, time to do the things we want to do, time to live." And Emma's answer was the number one answer on the board, which means 44 out of 100 people, when asked what they'd wish for, said the same thing. More time. Time is what we all want, what we all need, what we all run out of eventually. But Emma knows that more intimately than most because she's already faced running out of it 3 times. His voice broke. "Emma, you gave the perfect answer, not just for Family Feud but for life. If we could all wish for anything, we should wish for more time, because time is how we measure love and joy, and everything that makes life worth living. Emma, overwhelmed by the attention and emotion, said quietly, "I just want to grow up. I want to go to middle school and high school and college. I want to fall in love someday. I want to have kids maybe. I want all the normal things that other kids get to assume they'll have, but I can't assume that because I've already almost died 3 times. So yeah, I'd wish for more time. Time to do all that stuff." Steve Harvey pulled Emma into a hug, and Maria joined them, and the 3 of them stood there crying while the entire studio stood and applauded, not a normal game show applause, but an acknowledgement of something profound, a 10-year-old teaching everyone watching what wisdom looks like. Maria completed fast money, easily got the 47 points needed. She could have gotten 10 points and it would have felt like a victory, and the Rodriguez family won a 20,000. But nobody cared about the money. That wasn't the point. The point was that Emma Rodriguez, 3-time cancer survivor, had given an answer so pure, so honest, so perfect that it transcended the game and became a lesson in what matters. The episode aired 4 weeks later, in September 2024, and within hours it had gone viral. The clip of Emma saying, "More time," and Steve breaking down was viewed over 1 billion times in the first week, becoming the most shared Family Feud clip ever. People around the world were moved by this child's wisdom, by her casual acknowledgement that time isn't guaranteed, by her simple wish for something most people take for granted. The response was overwhelming. Children's hospitals across the country reported increased donations, people citing Emma's story as motivation to support pediatric cancer research. The Make-A-Wish Foundation and similar organizations saw surges in volunteers and funding. Emma's story sparked conversations about childhood cancer survival rates, about the long-term effects of treatment, about how we as a society support families dealing with pediatric illness. But more than anything, Emma's answer made people think about their own lives, about how they were spending their time, about what they'd wish for if they could wish for anything. More time became a rallying cry, a reminder to live fully, to not waste the time we have, to appreciate each day as the gift Emma understood it to be. 3 months after the episode aired, Emma had a routine scan that showed no evidence of disease. Still in remission, her oncologist cautiously said that the longer Emma stayed cancer-free, the better her chances of long-term survival, though she'd need monitoring for the rest of her life. Emma celebrated by crossing another item off her bucket list. She went ice skating for the first time and loved it despite falling down constantly. She started 5th grade, made new friends, continued to be a normal kid doing normal kid things, with the addition of monthly hospital visits and blood tests that would be part of her life forever. In December 2024, on Christmas morning, Emma and her family received a video message from Steve Harvey. He'd stayed in touch with the family since the taping, and he'd recorded a special message for Emma. "Emma, it's Steve. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I think about you all the time, about what you said on the show, and about wishing for more time. And I want you to know that you gave all of us a gift that day. You reminded us what matters. You reminded us to not take time for granted. You reminded us that every day is precious. And Emma, I want you to know that I'm praying for you, that I hope you get all the time you deserve and more, that you get to do all those things on your list. Keep fighting, keep being brave, and keep teaching the rest of us how to live. Merry Christmas, baby. I love you." Emma watched the video crying, telling her mom, "He remembered me. Steve Harvey remembered me." And Maria, also crying, said, "Baby, nobody who heard what you said that day will ever forget you." If this story moved you, if it reminded you that time is the most valuable thing we have, and that children can teach us wisdom that adults forget, hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe to our channel because we need more stories like this, stories that remind us what matters, that show us courage in small packages, that prove that the most profound truths often come from the mouths of children who've been forced to understand what most adults avoid thinking about. Emma Rodriguez is a 10-year-old who survived cancer 3 times, who's learned that time isn't guaranteed, who made a bucket list at age 10 that included stay healthy long enough to grow up. When she appeared on Family Feud and gave a fast money answer that stopped the show, When Steve Harvey asked what she'd wish for if she could wish for anything, and Emma answered, "More time," without hesitation, when that answer turned out to be the #1 response on the board, we all learned something about priority and perspective and the brutal honesty that comes from facing mortality at 7 years old. Emma's answer was perfect, not because it won the game, though it did, but because it cut through all the noise to name the one thing we all want but most of us don't appreciate until it's running out: time. Time to live, time to love, time to grow, time to be. That's what Emma wished for, and that's what her answer gave us. A reminder to use our time wisely, to not waste it, to live fully because we don't know how much we have. That's why the audience cried, that's why Steve Harvey broke down, and that's why Emma Rodriguez's perfect answer will be remembered long after the game is forgotten.